Bem-vindos ao programa Plano de Negócios aqui na Mega Brasil. Eu estou entrevistando o Brian Clancy e vai ser uma entrevista em inglês. Welcome, Brian. We are happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here in Brazil.
It's my first interview in English, so afterwards you tell me if I should continue with English interviews or just stay with the Portuguese one.
It's my first time in Brazil. Feel free to tell me to not come back. In technology, we're primarily building technologies that leverage the data that we have to make healthcare more efficient. So, for example, over many, many years, IMS is an old company. We've been around for more than 60 years in the United States. And one of the big areas that our clients use our information for is in their commercial operations. So for pharmaceutical companies can better understand where they should market their products, for example. One of the things that we're really doing is using that data to create workflow solutions, for example, for pharma sales forces, so that they better understand which physicians they should be calling on, so as to make those efforts much more productive. Other technologies that we have are better using, for example, digital marketing like email, channels like social media. These are the types of technologies that we're involved in. I'm particularly very interested in our digital health technologies.
What is that?
So, for example, we have our AppScript product. AppScript is the leading discovery, distribution, and analytics platform for mobile health technologies, mobile health apps. One of the big problems that we identified in a 2013 white paper about mobile health was that there's tens of thousands, now hundreds of thousands of mobile health apps. But most of them are very low quality, so that if a physician were to say, hey, go download a diabetes app for your condition, the likelihood of the patient finding a good diabetes app is actually very, very small, because most of the apps out there are so bad. So what we did with AppScript is we really use a lot of our data and analytics acumen to score different apps, different health apps, based on their quality. So we looked at endorsements from credible healthcare institutions, we looked at the clinical literature, we looked at how the apps are being reviewed on the app stores, these types of things, to develop a score 0 out of 100 for apps. We then provided a workflow solution for physicians where they can now use our product to prescribe applications to their patients. And not only applications, also wearable devices and digital content.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And how is it advancing? How it is today? You mapped how many applications, how many of those perform good? What is the situation today to those wearable devices and
Sure.
apps?
Yeah, so I think the situation today is that there are a select few applications that we would say are very good, and some of them have evidence supporting their value. A recent example of that is the MediSafe app, which is actually very popular in Brazil. It's a global app. It's most popular in the United States.
It's the MediSafe?
Yes, MediSafe.
Have anything to do with MetaLife?
No.
Okay.
No. It's a startup company, originally Israeli, now in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. And the Brazilian customer is just so interested in their health and so happy to use their smartphone that they've become one of the largest audiences for this personalized medication management app. Anyways, MediSafe came to us and they asked us, are our users who are using that app, are they more adherent to their medications? Are they better at taking their medications regularly than a matched cohort of non-users? And using our real-world evidence capability, using our patient anonymous data, we're able to demonstrate that yes, the MediSafe user is actually much more adherent to their medications than the same age, gender, equivalent demographic group. The reason why I talk about a case study like this underlies the potential
Yes.
of digital health to improve the health of people across the world, in Brazil, in the United States, everywhere where there's a mobile phone.
What do you see as the trends in the health market, specifically in technology
Yeah,
areas?
sure. The big picture is that if you look at the experience in consumer technology with an Uber or an Apple, you actually have these very high net promoter scores where people are very likely to recommend those experiences to their friends, to their family. In the healthcare industry, in our sector, we don't enjoy that same level of experience. It's not a very good experience that we provide today as an industry. I think the big trend is that our industry is at the very beginning of learning from the consumer technology industry to look at the experience of our customers, realize that we're introducing a lot of friction in that experience that doesn't need to be there in terms of filling out forms, waiting for things, not knowing what the status is, having it be too difficult to pay for things. We're looking at all these frictions that we're creating as an industry, and we're trying to use technology, not for technology's own sake, but to take that friction out of the experience and provide a better overall experience to the customers.
Because there is a lot of talk that medication will be in some point personalized, that they will
Sure.
gather DNA sample and then they will make a medication to you. And how, where we stand, is that a dream or is something that is around the corner?
Well, it's a very big question. I mean, I think that so, I think 5-10 years ago we would, as an industry, talk about personalized medicine, and the idea was that each individual would have basically their own custom medication. And I think, the industry has really moved away from that idea, and now we're talking more about precision medicine. We're talking more about, no, it's not going to be one medicine for one patient, but we're going to be a lot more careful about the swaths. We're basically targeting much nicher patient populations than we were originally. So cholesterol meds, we were targeting, potentially even billions of people who had high cholesterol with the same medication. Nowadays, in areas like oncology and cancer, we're targeting just patients that have not only, let's say, lung cancer, but patients that have the ALK mutation, which is like 4% of all lung cancer patients. So we're getting very refined about the exact patients that we target with medications in this new environment. And I think that to be really smart about that, there needs to be more technology. There needs to be more workflow automation tools. There needs to be more information available to the physician to make better decisions about what medications to use in different situations.
Specifically about Alzheimer.
Sure.
The population is getting older everywhere.
Sure.
And if we don't find a solution to Alzheimer, we will have a lot of people in the streets that don't know where they live. How IMS see that?
I don't know if I can take an IMS stance on this particular issue. I think that it's a very critical issue for our aging societies. Many countries nowadays have more elderly than they have young people, and the incidence of Alzheimer's is only going to increase. At the same time, new medications for Alzheimer's are notoriously difficult to develop. There's very high failure rates for Alzheimer's drugs. That being said, I think that some of the statements made by some of the speakers here at AbraPharma earlier today started to talk about different technologies that may be used for the elderly so that they can age in place. Because the number one thing that the elderly want to do. You know, if you speak to somebody who's 70, 80 years old, the thing that they really want to do is they want to stay in their home. They don't want to have to go to assisted living or nursing home or live with a parent or a loved one.
They don't want to feel old.
Exactly. So, you know, I think there's a lot of potential for technology to help individuals feel safer for longer in their own home. And that should take some of the cost pressures off that you were alluding to.
How IMS, if IMS works with university and research centers that can do a lot of work with IMS information, do you work together with universities?
With universities, we do. We actually have a program. It's run through our IMS Institute for Healthcare Informatics, where we do partner with universities to do cutting-edge research using IMS health data. So that's definitely an area where we see a lot of potential and a lot of engagement. You know, without our data, I think, you know, it would be difficult, you know, for some of these researchers to make the discoveries that they're discovering.
And do you see governments using IMS to improve policy?
Well, that's we certainly hope so. Are we seeing it? You know, I think that it's very challenging for you know, the wheels of government turn very slowly. There's some kind of expression like that. And
exactly.
It's very difficult, no matter how loud you may and persuasively you may shout for some change, you don't necessarily know exactly who is attributable or accountable for that change occurring. At the end of the day, you know, politicians act based on, you know, a critical mass of persuasion. It's usually not one voice.
Yes.
That being said, you know, again, our IMS Institute, one of the goals that we have is to provide policy setters across the world with the type of information they need, the type of analytics, the type of insights that they need to make better decisions, to make better policy decisions. And, you know, we hope that in some small way we're helping with that.
Where do you see your work in IMS 5 years from now?
Yeah, 5 years from now, you know, I think, you know, the name of the game is really, you know, I think real world evidence is going to be very important, and I think technology is going to be very important. You know, real world evidence, I think that we're going, as an industry, we're moving from a model where a phase 3 clinical trial for a new drug costs $20 million on average. And frankly, that's too much money for this precision medicine model that we were just talking about. We can't afford to spend $20 million every time we want to figure out what works best for some niche patient population. Really what we're doing with our information and with real world evidence is we're taking advantage of the experiments that happen every day in the real world to dramatically decrease that cost of a study. So, which means that there's so many, you know, to use an economics expression, studies are price elastic. The lower the cost comes down, the more studies get done. And it's exponential. You cut the cost of a study by 10x and you get 100 times or 1,000 times more studies. And I think that's creates the type of healthcare environment that treats people a lot better. I mean, from the technology side, it's all about taking that evidence and using it better in clinical practice.
Yet, if you look at data from the last 50 years or so, you see that for each one of us, health is becoming more and more expensive.
Sure.
And is that something, any light in the end of the tunnel that says we can break that trend because like the middle class is less richer than previous middle class because health is just taking everything out of the middle class revenue? Elizabeth Warren, the Democratic senator from Boston, have this this book, the two income trap,
sure.
Right? And she says a lot about how people need more health and it's becoming more expensive and making the middle class poorer. So is anything to break that trend?
I think that there's a number of different, there's no shortage of ideas, is one of the things that I'll say. I think that, the best role for me as an individual to play in this, or my company to play in this, is to provide more intelligence to the system. I think that there's a lot of waste in healthcare today, and there's a lot of waste that we don't even know about. There's a lot of treatments being used for patients that don't need those treatments, and there's a lot of people who don't have treatment that need to be treated. And I think that when I talk about this real world evidence providing a foundation for precision medicine,
so you're saying that there's a lot of space to optimization in the supply chain overall of the health.
I think that there's a lot of optimization to be made, at the point of care, where I think that we owe it to physicians to give physicians better information and better workflow technologies to better understand, what treatments should be provided to what patients at the right time. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to make the healthcare system a lot more efficient at that point of care. Other things is that, things like, I'll go back to digital health, mobile health applications, companies like Medisafe. To the extent that some of these new technologies can make patients more adherent to their medications, can better coach them through their conditions, I think there's a lot of opportunity to keep them out of the hospital, which reduces the cost to the system of those hospitalizations, and ultimately rewards everyone that's part of the health system, because there's more money to go around. So just a few comments. There's a lot of solutions out there.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to be a combination of a lot of different things. But what I'd really like to represent is the potential of technology to better use what we already have on the shelf in terms of treatments and get it to the right patient at the right time.
Yet we haven't found a silver bullet yet.
No, I don't think we're going to be dramatically reducing the cost of healthcare anytime soon. I think that with luck, though, the expression is bending the cost curve.
Okay. Now my last question is regarding what have you seen in Brazil, and what are your thoughts regarding what you've seen here?
Sure. It's a beautiful country with beautiful people, and by that I mean, the entrepreneurs that I see here in our industry, in the healthcare industry, I see, big ambitions, and I see, a real desire to improve the health of patients here in Brazil. And I think that as long as you have problem solvers, then we'll start getting at some of these problems that we're facing in the healthcare system today. And, I'm very enlivened by who I've met here.
Great. Brian, I would like to thank you very much to come to our studio to this interview.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to have you here.
It was a pleasure to be here, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado a todos. Vocês que têm perguntas para o Brian, pode mandar e-mails para produção.planosdenegócios@megabrasil.com.br e estaremos felizes de entrar em contato com ele de novo para responder às suas perguntas. Obrigado. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcaram uma reunião de última hora com o conselho da empresa. Metade das filiais não mandou as informações necessárias para você terminar o relatório. É o terceiro ano que a empresa fecha no vermelho. Você chegou a 4 meses com a missão de reverter a situação da sua empresa. 3 profissionais antes de você tentaram e não conseguiram. O conselho quer fechar 2 fábricas. Você vai ter apenas 10 minutos para apresentar e fazer com que mudem de ideia. Pense com calma, haja rápido. Um curso prático para decisões de impacto. Se inscreva hoje, pois o número de vagas é limitado. cursos@skygroup.com ou no telefone 11 2847 4969.